My name is Mari Sundli-Tveit. I'm the rector of the Norwegian University of Life Sciences, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this session where we will explore, maybe not to say we will deep dive into marine ingredients in food and nutraceuticals and the role that this can play in meeting the grand challenges that we're facing, both when it comes to enough food but also nutritious food. So we have very many new and exciting developments within this area. We also, and I'm going to give you just a quick Norwegian example to begin with, because this also has long-standing tradition. In fact, in Norway, we've had a spoonful of cod oil as a favorite among the kids for, I'd say, a century or so. So this is some of this is well known, and there are also some very exciting developments. So we have a great panel for you, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself, but I'm just going to say who they are. So we have Blandine Berg. She's with the Microalgae Project, and she's the manager from Roxette in France. Then we have Øyvind Fylling Jensen, who's the CEO of Nofima from Norway. And then we have Mark Rotman, who's the CEO of Blue Wave Marine Ingredients from the United States. Welcome to the three of you. So maybe, Blandine, would you tell us a little bit about yourself, just to start with?
So my name is Blandine Berg. I have a background in agronomia and in nutrition. And before joining Roquette, I work as a nutritionist on formulation, communication, and clinical trial. So I joined Roquette 8 years ago now, and I am a macroalgae project manager. I'm involved in the development of new ingredients based on macroalgae. So Roquette is a French family-owned group with an international dimension. We are processing maize, wheat, potato, pea, and more recently macroalgae in ingredients for food, nutrition, health, and plant-based chemistry. And now we have in our range 3 ingredients based on macroalgae commercialized under the brand name Algility.
Thank you, Blandine. Please, Øyvind.
My name is Øyvind Fylling Jensen. I'm the CEO of Nofima, the Norwegian Institute of Food, Fishes and Aquaculture Research. My background is in veterinary medicine with a PhD in pathology. But as a pathologist, you know everything, but you're always too late. So and I was then thinking that it was better to do a career in business. So I've been working in the biotechnology industry with startups from back in the mid-80s, expanding internationally. I've been running a large medical service laboratory, been in the pharmaceutical industry, into aquaculture, and what you call the circle is turned around, and for the last 10 years I've been working in the institute sector with applied research for the food side, and lately then food, fishes and aquaculture.
Thank you, Øyvind. Please, Mark.
Mark Rotman. Education is mechanical engineering, and I've spent about the last 25 years in operational, technical, and executive management roles. And I'm also the co-founder of Blue Wave Marine Ingredients, along with a gentleman by the name of Michael Mussel. And we founded the company 7 years ago with the mindset of taking technology that actually came from your country in Norway, the original development, but it required a couple of American cowboys to go out and actually build factories before we had consumers to buy the product. And so this is a very appropriate session for me, because I think I have some both battle scars but some success stories and what it means to commercialize marine ingredients both to the food and nutraceutical industry. And I will also say that this gentleman here probably doesn't know it, but some of his research, or his staff's research, was the motivating or inspiration behind our project, understanding the benefits of marine ingredients, which are different than land ingredients, And so there's a special story that we have here at this conference that we look forward to sharing with you on producing these products.
Thank you, Mark. So this is a big topic. So we need a short version of what marine ingredients are and what they're good for. So maybe I can challenge you, Blandine, to give us the short version, please.
Yeah, I think that we can define marine ingredient as a nutritious product and that are used mainly for human consumption or animal feed. And those compounds are derived from marine organisms such as fish, shellfish, krill, algae or macroalgae. The more commonly known marine ingredient is fish meal and fish oil. They provide feedstuff for farm fish and crustaceans, and the addition in aquaculture diet of fish meal and fish oil enable the presence of polyunsaturated fatty acid in the end product, which is very interesting for the end consumer because the polyunsaturated fatty acids are well known and as beneficial for the health. And those oils can also be commercialized as a supplement. But new development and technique allow now the recovery of valuable ingredients from byproduct or waste. It's the case, for example, from the frame and the cutoff of fish processing that contain considerable amount of protein, and we can hydrolyze that protein and obtain high nutritional protein hydrolysate. But we can also now valorize the shells of the crustacean for chitin, the fish skin as collagen and gelatin, even the fish bone as mineral sources. And there is also new sources of raw material that appears. This is the case of krill, which is not so new now, but it was not so old ingredient, rich in polyunsaturated fatty acid, but also antioxidant. And now the macro and the microalgae are also a new source of development that contain many compounds of interest in food and health.
Thank you so much for that short version. So Mark, we've heard that there's research going on all over the world regarding this. And how far would you say that real business is for these promising new compounds?
Truthfully, I think the revenue dollars would show that it's not very far. I would consider Blue Wave now actually a leader in the industry in constructing plants and manufacturing facilities. We're located in four countries: Ecuador, Peru, Spain, and Morocco, with more than $30 million in the ground for plant and equipment. And yet, I can tell you that commercializing these products outside of the omega-3 oils, which is to me more of the mainstay commodity marine ingredient today, but commercializing the protein side is in its infancy. I'll also add that, and I'll defer to one of my senior colleagues here, but I think there's really 2 omega-3s and maybe 3 that make a difference in the world. But when it comes to a protein, and then when you fractionate that protein with an enzyme into a peptide, you literally create hundreds, if not thousands, of different peptides, most of which are not yet understood. So if you look at some of the basic ones, which I think Nofima has led the research in the vasoactive properties of some peptides, there you have some claims to commercialize. But from a business approach standpoint, even in the protein hydrolysate world, what we found is creating a product which is acceptable to the consumer is first and most important in commercializing. After that, the claims and the scientific efficacy will come.
Thank you. I'll just touch on to what you were saying about being acceptable to the consumers. Because, Øyvind, consumers, as we know, they demand both healthy and tasty, nutritious food. And some say that sometimes, at least, taste may be a challenge for some of the marine ingredients. And your research institute is working on several aspects of marine ingredients, and among other proteins from rest raw materials, and this would be from fish processing. So, Øyvind, how would you see this fit with the demand for tasty ingredients? Is this a challenge for us? And and if it is, what would you see as the major challenge?
I think one of the challenges when you look at marine ingredients development is understanding the value chain. It's not only about putting equipment and boiling and extracting and doing hydrolysis, but it's actually, if you are looking at something that either goes to the consumer or to the end user, it has to be palatable and it has to have a taste. Recent research from Nofima, and a PhD student, she has just published her degree, shows that when you do hydrolysis, you make hydrophilic peptides, which are by nature has a bitterness. And if you do high yield, you want high yield to get few peptides, then you get masking all the taste in the protein, and you get a low yield in the output. So you have to look at the taste and the peptides when you want to put it into food as a food ingredients, because the bitterness is one of the worst tastes to the human palatability. And being able to link from the biotech plant we have in Norway the whole way through to the consumer with a sensory panel and understand the taste profiling, it's actually one of the big challenges to make this protein fraction, like Mike is talking about, acceptable to the big business in the future.
Yeah, I will add to that as you start a company and make new products, you'll look to historical industries for tried and true methods of flavor covering. And I do believe that the research back to the source and the production to try and eliminate some of these characteristics is certainly an avenue to investigate. And yet the bitterness or the bitter profile, whether you think of other foods like grapefruits or other bitter foods, is there something inherent in bitter molecules that also make them important for their nutraceutical capabilities in the body. And so you can look at a pure form, or maybe you look at a blended or a mixed form in other ingredients that are palatable to the audience. And then the last thing I'll say is our human nutrition business, we're really targeting North America, but I do believe that the rest of the world has a different taste palette than North America, and so you also have to look at your audience and the taste palette that they might want to consider in developing your products.
Well, thank you. So we can say that we're acknowledging that this can be an issue, and it can be a different issue in different parts of the world, and we're onto it. We're working on it, and there are ways of dealing with it, so that sounds promising. Blandine, I'm going to go back to you. Both scientists and companies tell us that there are lots of new compounds with very promising uses, both within the nutraceutical and medicinal and functional food industries. So, as you were saying, your company is dealing with ingredients for food. So what would you say are the most important aspects which the scientists have to sort out? And what do you think the market would look like in the future? And is there a certain path that you would recommend forward on this?
So even if the omega-3 are one of the most researched compounds in health and nutrition, even if there is a considerable number of published papers and clinical trials, I think we are still at the beginning of the understanding of the role of EPA and DHA in human health, and regularly there is negative or neutral results that are marketed by the mainstream media and that shake the confidence of consumer and prescriptor. So probably we should more communicate around the positive result on omega-3 generally, when we develop a new ingredient, if it's a fatty acid or even a peptide, to have some strong clinical data around the benefit of the compound in complementation of the test result, but usually the end customer want to know why he is going to buy our ingredient to add it in his finished product, for which benefit for the consumer. So it's also important, I think. And probably we should also address more the issue encountered by the consumer when he consumes the product. For example, the cost or the form of the product. There is a clear opportunity for innovation in improving the convenience of the product, in developing, for example, emulsion or tablets, or by developing new extraction process without solvent, or with by developing new raw product. It is what we are doing when we are developing a whole macroalgae ingredient. We have no solvent, we value the whole ingredient. So it is also a trend demanded by the consumer.
Thank you.
Can I add to Blandine? And I think this room here, and certainly Pierre, and what you've developed over the last 7 years, could create, whether it's an institute or a third-party validation, so that the companies who want to go out and market are not in the position of having to make the claims, but maybe we have an industry panel that can validate some of these claims and add trust to the product, so that we don't run into what I consider to be the snake oil or the exaggerated claims. So certainly, if we could use an independent approach with an organization like this, I think we could add strength to the products.
Absolutely, that would be a very good option. So Mark, there was something else I was going to ask you about. We've already been talking about a little bit about the market and creating new products and actually getting them into the market. And how do you see research helping to shape the regulations so that we can support faster entry into the market for new products?
I guess I started, she got me excited.
Yeah. It was coming up.
It was coming up, right. I think, especially in the United States, I'm not as familiar with Europe, but we have really, you're either a food or you're a drug, and we have a difficult time with that product in between. I believe it's Japan that has FOSHU, food for specific health use, and so it's that middle ground where you want to make some basic claims, but not cures. And so I believe that research could help us there by providing the evidence for those middle ground claims where you don't want to be a drug, but you want to be more than a food. And maybe it's medical foods, maybe that's where the marine ingredient space could go. But I will tell you that there aren't many companies in the space who can afford to do the research, even in this room, when you're trying to do startups and produce commercial products. And so whether it's governmental organizations, or I'm not sure how much funding Nofima gets from Norwegian government, what percent it is, but doing that research and making it openly available so the entrepreneurs of the world can latch onto that and move forward is a very important part of this business development.
So thank you. And so we're really onto something very important, which is how we collaborate and how we can work together, and also the different sectors and different parts of society to find solutions. So Øyvind, can you share with us a little bit your thoughts about what seems to be the common challenges in this field and how we can collaborate to find solutions?
Yeah, I think there is two sides following it. One of is the challenge is the health claims. And in the European Food Safety Agency, to make health claims and to get approval for feed and food products with health claim is extremely difficult. It's a big challenge. So that's something where documentation is probably killing a lot of the small companies, because it's very burdensome. When it comes to collaborative research, we are an applied contract research organization, but we are not able to survive unless we are collaborating with universities like the University of Life Sciences or the University in Tromsø. They are doing the basic research. We are interlinking with the industry. As the industry, we work together with industry partners, and you convey the knowledge in a stream that actually integrates the basic knowledge into an applied knowledge base, which then is transferred together with the industry out to the marketplace. And unless you're able to create this chain of knowledge flow, you will not be able to succeed. We can't only be consultants. We have to have some funding that enables us to build core competencies within our applied field, as universities need core funding to do their research. And important is that a lot of these small companies do not have the ability to build strong R&D organizations. They are focused on getting money, and that's where the research institutes and the partnership comes in to actually enhance the knowledge base for smaller companies within this field. And one example, I just want to follow up on the comment here that an independent body, we have been looking at marine oils, and we have done taste profiling of oils and trying to map it. And you can actually divide the taste of marine oils in 121 different taste profiles. And it's both on the palatability again, but it's also on the taste in the range from rancidity and the whole way up to delicious. And if you can make this taste profiling into a chart that makes it possible for the industry to use it, then you have something that can be an objective tool to put oils into the market and avoid the snake oil. I think there's too many charlatans out there trying to push bad products, and that destroys the reputation of this industry.
Yes, strong and fair point, I think. So Mark, is there some, we've already been talking about this, but is there anything that you would like to add when it comes to the logistics and the production processes, as Øyvind was also talking about? Would you pinpoint some key actions that we would need to?
Yes, I think I'll start with saying to produce a good marine nutraceutical, you have to start with good fresh material, and yet probably the healthiest and most diverse raw material are actually the discards, the visceras, and have the most potential for drugs and or nutraceutical therapy, but they're not necessarily conducive to the consumer in terms of what the consumer might want to think that they're going to take in. So you have to deal with that from both a production and a logistics. And then secondly, I'll say, while the nutraceutical side is a small component of the marine foods outcome, the laws and regulations are really written around the basic fishing. And so those become very important in terms of how you design and build facilities and whether you can actually have access to raw material on a continuous basis. So I think all of the things that apply to a typical fishing industry company will apply to the nutraceutical company, except that maybe our volume needs are less, and actually the byproducts or the visceras might have the most exciting molecules and components in them that we could use for future claims and products.
Thank you. As this session is coming to an end quite quickly, and we've heard, and we're all agreeing that there's a great potential here, and there are also some challenges. So just some very quick answers from all three of you. What would you consider the most important future steps to maximize the potential when it comes to marine ingredients, both for food and for nutraceutical applications? And we start with you, Blandine, in just a quick minute from each of you. Blandine, oh, okay. Sorry.
I think one of the main points is the consumer and the doctor education around the benefits of the marine ingredient as natural sources of active compound. The nutrition in general and this ingredient in particular are really a role to play in prevention of disease and in supplying a natural source of relief in some pathology, but very few consumers and even doctors are aware of this fact. And another point is probably to fix some recommended dietary intake in this ingredient globally could help to encourage the consumption of this ingredient.
Thank you. Øyvind, what's your opinion?
I think there is too many people focusing on finding the exotic ingredients in unknown starting materials. I think it's very important that we utilize the rest raw materials, and we don't talk about waste, but we utilize what we have in abundance, be it from the ag industry, or be it from the fisheries, or be it from the aquaculture, and utilize that as a source for high-value protein, oils, lipids, and bioactive compounds. That's the easiest way to start, and it's the shortest way to the market, because you have the raw material source and known. And it's going back to Mike's comment, that the quality of the logistics and the it's like S in is like S out, so you have to have a focus on the freshness of the raw material.
Thank you. Mark, final word to you.
For me, it's build it and they will come. I completely agree. Don't go with the exotic, go with the base. There's enough. I think the powder market for whey proteins is about $3 billion, and there's a $30 billion number out there when you throw in candy bars and other things. There's a consumer base out there around the world who wants non-GMO, who wants natural ingredients, and if you build a base quality natural ingredient, you can commercialize that as you then work to what I would call the more exotic claims that you want to make in the future. So you have to invest the money, you have to have powder in a jar or oil in a pill, or you have to have something to sell. You've got to get off of the PowerPoint and put some concrete in the ground and make a factory.
That's good advice from all of you. I want to thank you so much for this session. Thank you for enlightening us, and thank you for this very positive overview of the situation. There is lots of potential, some challenges, but not too large to overcome, and we're on it. So next time we meet, we'll see how far we've come, and thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Does this research at all life stages. 1 gram juvenile fish all the way up to grow-out fish, about 1.8 pounds. Our innovative research and development has looked at replacing the fish oil component of the diet with a certain percentage of heterotrophic algae.
So fish meal and fish oil are what we consider finite resources. You would have to go out and